Today, I want to spend some time talking about growth. Growth. And a lot of times when we think about growth, we talk about things like consistency, we talk about discipline, we talk about commitment. All these things are very important to growth, whether professional growth or personal growth or spiritual growth. They're very important. But then I was taking a walk this morning, and in taking a walk, Spirit revealed something to me and said, when people talk about growth, there's one thing they leave out that people don't talk about enough. And the ability to do this one thing can decide how much you grow. And there are so many people out there that are not growing because they are not doing this one thing. A lot of them are committed, a lot of them are consistent, a lot of them are hardworking, a lot of them are disciplined. But this one thing is not being spoken about enough. And so when I came back from my walk, immediately I came to record the podcast because I want to talk about this one thing that is important to growth. And that's stopping. Stopping. Your ability to stop. We don't talk about this enough because, funny enough, it's contrary to consistency. It's contrary to commitment. It seems contrary to these things. It seems contrary to discipline. It seems contrary to showing up. But stopping is very important. If you cannot stop, you cannot grow. If you can't stop, you can't grow. I know this thought came to my mind because I thought about my life, my path. And I said, Tola, you've had the gift and the presence of mind to stop a lot of things, to move to the next thing. And a lot of times you take it for granted that every other person is built like that. I know when I thought about it, I was grateful for God to give me the natural ability to be able to stop. I don't find it hard stopping. I don't. And I'll come to why I don't find it hard and why a lot of people find it hard. But I don't find it hard to stop things. And when I stop things, I'm able to move on to the next thing with clarity. This is something a lot of us do not know how to do. A lot of us are hoarders. We are hoarders. I used to watch a show on Discovery TV, and I used to look at the lives of hoarders. And there are so many hoarders abroad. In fact, I'm sure they are here in Nigeria, but they're not just documented. But there are so many hoarders. When I watch this TV program, they go into the life of people that hoard things. They just keep things in their house. They never discard of anything. So they just keep things. They have a fear of letting things go, so they can hoard. And a lot of these people that the show went into their houses to investigate this problem they had with hoarding. Hoarding is a problem. You understand? It's a psychological problem that a lot of people have. It has to do more with psychiatry than just a random habit. It's deeply rooted in a psych problem that people have. But then when they go into their houses, a lot of them, you can't even access rooms anymore. You have to, there's a carefully marked out path through their houses. You cannot move through that house till you go through that narrow path, because every corner of the house is filled with items. You can get lost. A human being can get lost in the clutter of stuff. that you'll find in these houses. So some of them, they ask people to come in and clean out their houses and stuff. And hoarding is a terrible thing. But I realize that a lot of us are hoarders. We find it hard to let things go. Find it hard to let things go. So we have this mentality, what if I need it again? What if I need it again? So you keep it. And that's how a lot of you have kept a lot of junk in your house over time. Things you should have let go of, you still keep it because of the what if I need it again. So we hoard with our lives, and our ability to stop and discontinue something is very important. That's the reason why a lot of us are not growing. It's not because you're not consistent, not because you're not disciplined, it's not because you're not hardworking, it's not because you're not talented, it's because you are not stopping. Something has to stop for you to grow. Something has to stop for you to grow. You see, I have a garden, and I talked about the garden on the podcast on quite a number of occasions. Something interesting about gardening is that I've come to understand plant life better. And I feel that's made me a more spiritual person. You see, spirituality is not just in acts that we confine to spirituality, like praying, reading scripture, going to religious houses, mosque, church, that kind of thing. No, spirituality is in the appreciation. A lot of it is in the appreciation of everything the Creator has made and makes available. So you see, for the first time in my life, I'm paying keen attention to plant life. A lot of us have no regard for plant life. We have no regard. We think these things they don't have emotion, they have no feelings, stuff like, but they do. Do you understand? They do. We must understand that they do. And just as we are meant to be kind to each other as human beings and kind to animals, we also should be kind to plants and inanimate things. To be kind to things that are created by God. Be kind to stones. You understand? Don't just treat things anyhow because they have a spiritual essence. But you see, from watching plants, I realized that there are some plants, and I don't know if this is general to all plants, but these are some plants, and most of the plants in my garden. I have bell peppers, I have tomatoes, I plant watermelon, I have yam, I have water leaf, I have okra. There are quite a number. There's turmeric. I have things there. But then I realized that a lot of them, especially the ones that have fruits, the fruiting plant, I realized that when you plant them and they start springing up, shooting up, you realize that at a stage, they all begin to produce flowers. They all begin to produce flowers. Beautiful flowers. They might be small, but they produce flowers. Watermelons produce beautiful yellow flowers. The same thing with tomato and pepper. They produce flowers. They produce flowers first. Water leaf produce flowers, but water leaves are not fruit bearing. But I'm talking about the fruit bearing ones. And one thing I realized is that they produce flowers, and then after a while, they stop producing flowers to produce fruit. They hardly ever produce flowers and fruit at the same time. There's a time of flowering, but that time stops for a time of fruiting. You see, this is exactly how life is. The ability to stop doing something is very important for you to move to the next stage of something. A lot of us are scared to stop because we hoard, because we are insecure about whether we will need something in the future. So we are scared to stop. But our ability to stop is very important. That's how life is. If a caterpillar is scared to stop being a caterpillar, it will never become a butterfly. It must stop being a caterpillar. It cannot be a butterfly and a caterpillar at the same time. It cannot hold on to the identity of being a caterpillar and hope to fly one day. It has to stop being a caterpillar. A tadpole cannot stop, has to stop being a tadpole to be a frog or to be a toad. It cannot hold on to swimming in water and hope to grow legs. It must lose its ability to swim in a streamlined way like a fish. That must stop for it to grow into what it's meant to be, the next thing. It cannot hold on to one identity and move to the next level. You stop being a boy to be a man. You stop being a girl to be a woman. Stopping is important in growth. But a lot of us, we fear this activity of stopping because we see stopping as negative. Nobody talks about it enough. We talk about commitment, rugged commitment, stay doing it, grind at it, show up every day. It's good, but we have to know that for all things, a time must come when we stop doing things to go to the next thing. I need someone to listen to me today because some of you need to stop things. That's why you're not moving to the next level. You are scared to stop. If you can't stop something, you will be stuck in something. I'll say that again. Those who can't stop get stuck. A lot of us have gotten stuck in identities that we have built. But because these identities are so beautiful, we have taken it as our only identity and our bus stop in life. Just like with this plant. With the watermelon, when I planted watermelon I never knew watermelons had flowers. But when I planted it, after a while, a few weeks, I started seeing beautiful yellow flowers. They were beautiful. It was beautiful, actually really beautiful. But then, it's very easy to praise the beauty of those yellow flowers and to try to keep the identity to this glorified beauty and to think, oh, this is it. People like my flowers. It's beautiful. So let me just keep these flowers. Let me stay in this identity, not knowing there was the fruit to come after that, which is actually the real value. And that's what I want to let you know, that because something is praised and beautiful doesn't mean that is your final value. Some of us need to learn to stop. My wife knows me. I'm notorious with stopping. I can stop something in the middle of what seems like the middle of the road to other people. I can stop something that is flourishing and booming. I can stop. I've always had this gift. I don't hold on to things tightly and ruggedly. I can stop. I tell people when I got into graphic design, I was a motion graphic designer. People that went to school with me in Canada, they know me. Tola is the motion guy. I was good at motion graphics. Motion graphics was my thing. I did the coolest motion graphics. People in my class knew me for motion graphics. And then I was using a software called Macromedia Flash. And everybody thought Tola is going to go into motion graphics. We're going to see him doing videos and stuff like that. But then, I stopped. Even though I'd built a portfolio in motion graphics, I'd built a name. My classmates knew me and they were like, this is the go-to guy. My lecturers knew me. This guy is great with Flash. They were recommending people to me. After a while, I just stopped. And people were calling me for motion graphics. And I said, I don't do that anymore. And they were like, but I got your number from this person. I got your number from your teacher. I said, I don't do that anymore. And people were confused. How can you stop something you are so good at? I remember following a guy when I was in Canada. His name is Billy Bossy or Billy Bussey. I don't know how they, but it's Billy Bussey. Billy Bussey. And I remember stumbling on his website, and this guy was doing 3D animation. And he was doing 3D animation in the year 2005, 2006. It's about 20 years ago. But what that guy was doing with 3D animation in that time, to be honest with you, I've not seen people do it today. Billy Bussey. He had a website called billybussey.com. I'm not sure if it's double S or one S, but if you Google him, I don't know if he's still putting his work out. I used to look at his work every single day. Every single day, I'll go to Billy Bussey's site. And I was like, wow, this guy's work is incredible. How can someone be so good? I'm telling you, what he was doing 20 years ago, I don't see people doing it now, the level of work. And I'm like, this guy's a superstar. And I used to get comments on his site and stuff like that. And it was just incredible. And one day I went to Billy Bussey's site and he had taken the site down. So I thought he was remodeling the site and just about to make it much better and put up much better work. So he still was like, he put the site back down and was like under construction. Then under construction was a popular thing when you were working on the site, just under construction. So, but since I used to go there every single day, I would go back and check. Has he put up the site? And it took him about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then he put back the site up. But to my disappointment, he took down all his 3D work, every single thing he had done in 3D, and he started to put up paintings, sketches, pencil sketches of him drawing people, models, things like that, just in art class. And it was pretty much the most boring thing I'd ever seen. And I refreshed the site. I said, this can't be Billy Bussey. No, this is not the guy that inspires me. So I went back the next day, and I was so disappointed. I said, why did this guy stop? And I had to write him a message. I said, why did you stop doing this thing? I wrote him a message. And he said, I'm moving on to the next thing. I'm like, that's incredible. You have the courage to stop doing something to move on to the next thing. To be honest, I stopped looking at his site. I stopped because I wasn't interested in the next thing he was moving on to. But some years after that, I went back to his site and I realized he had grown so much. He was having exhibitions, he was having trainings, he was talking about art. He had grown. He wasn't doing the 3D anymore. He had stopped that, but he had moved to the next thing. And even after this, I'm going to try to check him up again to see what he's doing right now. But he had grown. He had grown. He was a speaker and talking about art and stuff like that and teaching people. He was well into art. And if I check it now, he might not even be doing that anymore. The courage to stop. Some of you can't stop. So you keep hoarding and keeping things that are on you and just say, oh, I can't tell people I've stopped fashion design. I'm now into photography. I can't say I've stopped photography. I'm now into this. So you keep photography. And I see, there was a time I was watching TV and there was this talent show, this music talent show, one of these music talent shows. And they were interviewing the contestants. And all of them were like, I'm a chef and a photographer and a fashion designer. I'm a pastor and a singer and a businessman and a real estate. And my daughter asked me, my daughter was really young. They said, Daddy, why are these people so many things? I said, I don't know. I said, as the Nigerian economy here, we just try. We don't like to let go of things because they never know which one will hit the jackpot. Maybe if I just tell them I do photography along with my being a chef, I never know which one. Yoruba say one thing, onokon waja, which means there isn't one way to the market. I never knew where my market would come from. So people are scared, so they hoard. And by hoarding, we block things that people should see. Look, as human beings, I'm totally of the opinion that we are multifaceted. That's the truth. We are not one thing. But sometimes we are meant to express one thing for a period of time and move to another thing. and move to another thing. And sometimes we come full circle back to one thing, back to that thing that we started as. It's okay, but we must allow ourselves to stop. You see why people don't stop? I'll tell you why, and why I'm able to stop, and why I believe someone like Billy Bossy was able to stop. It's because a lot of us are not spiritual. We don't listen to our spiritual essence. And when I say we're not spiritual, we're all born spiritual, but a lot of us we subdue our spiritual essence. We're not spiritual. We don't do things from a spiritual flow. We squeeze out our essence. We work hard towards something rather than flow easily in something. You see, in 2022, this 2025, for context, for people that are listening to this, 2022, that's about 3 years ago, I woke up one morning and I had a thought in my head. I just woke up in the morning and I had a thought, and it had been lingering in my head since for hours while I was sleeping. So when I woke up, it was my waking thought. And I was like, why is this thought in my head? So I typed it on my Samsung notes and I went about my day. And something just told me, share this thing on social media. So I shared it. And when I shared it, a lot of people could relate to it. I'm telling you, it's a true story. 2022, I shared it. It was the thought I was having. It was just a thought. And I shared it. And I got the most interaction I'd had up until now. You understand? Up until that time, I didn't have that much interaction. And at that time, I was doing a lot of graphic design. And I started my podcast, but then I wasn't writing anything about my thoughts. But that morning, I just woke up and I just started writing about my thoughts. And people really said, oh, I love what you just wrote. And they started to share it, put it on their WhatsApp. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. The next day, slept again, thought in my head. I'm like, what's going on? Nagging thought, word for word, full stop for full stop, comma for comma. I wasn't adding anything. So I typed it out again, put it out there. And it happened consistently for a week. And I remember someone reached out to me, a friend of mine, Zim. He reached out to me and said, how are you coming up with all these deep thoughts? And I gave him an answer. I don't know whether he believed me. Zim, if he's listening to this, I really hope you believe me because it was the truth. I said, I don't think of these things. They just come to me. I just wake up in the morning and they are there. And it happened every day for 2022, 2023, 2024. It happened every day for 3 years. 3 years. I was bombarded with thoughts that I didn't think about. I didn't think about them. And then I started to put them out. And at the point I started to have some fun with it, put something in the background just to make it more interesting. Because when I looked at my Instagram page, it was just white with black text. So I just wanted to put a background behind it. And that's why I started this thing called TA Life Branding. My wife told me, this life branding, you're telling people how to live their lives. You understand? How to correct their lives. Life branding from 2022 to 2024. And people are asking, why am I putting a date to it? Because I don't write them anymore. And when we're talking about spirituality, towards the end of 2024, they stopped coming. Stopped. I'm telling you. Then I started to think about them. Then it became stressful. Then I started to ask, does it make sense? Should I edit it? Then I started to take it to ChatGPT to edit it for me. But it wasn't hitting home. And Spirit told me, why are you trying to squeeze out something that has stopped? But I was like, oh, but people are liking this thing. They're sharing it. And I started to form an identity, a fence of identity around it. That's the mistake we make. We think because we are producing flowers, that is who we are. Not knowing that's just a stage before the fruiting. So I wanted to stay there as the guy that writes really deep things. And no, that has stopped. You've written everything I want you to write. 3 years. That's cool. That's all. Full stop. Next thing, share. The Spirit told me clearly, next phase you are in is the sharing phase. You're going to share everything you've learned in those 3 years. Everything you've written in those 3 years. Just start sharing them again. So what I share right now, nothing is new. For those who follow me closely, I share these things a lot on my WhatsApp status. If you want to see them, please follow me on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is +234 80 232 If you just want to be seeing my status, that's fine. A lot of people just contact me and say they want to be feeling my status, seeing my status. You get a lot of value from my status. That's one thing I put on my status nearly every day. My TA Life branding, things I've written in those 3 years. Very few of them are new things. Very few. You understand? Those 3 years was a year of being bombarded. Then I had to stop this year. It was hard to stop because I wanted to hold on to that beautiful identity. But God told me, stop being a tadpole, time to develop into a frog. Stop being a caterpillar, time to develop into a butterfly. Stop being a boy, time to be a man. We cannot hold on to identities ruggedly. When you read the Bible, Peter was a fisherman. And I think he was a very good fisherman, to be honest. I think he was good. I think he was a popular fisherman. But Jesus told him, okay, time to stop fishing fish and start fishing men. And when every time he tried to go back, God, you stopped after. You need to learn to stop this to grow into the next thing. And that's why when you read about Peter in Acts, one of the first things they said he did, preaching, and 3,000 people came to Christ in one day. But he couldn't do that and still hold on to being a fisherman at the same time. You don't grow by hoarding. Something needs to stop. And why I say people do not stop, because they don't have spiritual leadings. You can't identify the spiritual flow. I was able to stop that writing because I knew when the spiritual flow stopped, when it stopped being easy, when I started to think. But a lot of us start out thinking. Sometimes we augment the spiritual flow with our own thinking. So you don't even know when the flow has stopped because there's so much thinking covering up the flow, so much walking, so much laboring. God doesn't desire for us to labor. Trust me, Billy Bossy or Billy Bussey wasn't good in 3D animation because he was labored. That guy had some spiritual essence, I'm telling you. He was doing stuff beyond his time. There's no way. Nobody was trained to do it the way he was doing it. It was a spiritual flow. And I totally believe that once he stopped feeling that flow, he stopped. You need to learn to stop. Because when you don't stop, when the flow stops, you start to push. And this is where fatigue comes in and stress comes in. We must learn to stop. Stop hoarding. The hoarding is not good. Don't let people's compliments tie you down. Some of us are stuck because of people's compliments. Oh, you're so good. You're so wonderful. I love this thing you're doing. Oh, you make my day. Oh, yeah, it's good. But it's flowers. When the soil stops supplying the nutrients to the flowers will stop dying. Stop adding manure to things that are dying. Allow it go to the next phase. Let the fruit come out. And sometimes that will mean losing some audience. That's fine. Stop. Move on. I say this is very important because one day you might just wake up and you don't see TA podcast anymore. Don't think because I do it almost every day now, I'm committed to it for the rest of my life. No. I'm a spiritual person. Once I realize I'm beginning to think, what do I say on this podcast? What do I say? What do I say today? What do I say? It will stop that day. That's the day I will organize the funeral and put it in the ground and wait for the next thing. I'm telling you, never get so committed. Never get so disciplined. Never get so consistent that you don't know when to stop. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and this is the TA Podcast.